some time now, I've been kind of frustrated with this battery box lid on the back of my 1977 MGB Roadster. Here's the thing with this battery box. All right, so you can see these little quarter turn screws. The idea behind these screws are they turn a quarter turn or a half turn, whatever, and they disengage so that you can lift the battery box. Well, these screws have gotten old and they're kind of wobbly. They really don't do what they're intended to do. You see how frustrating it is to get this thing off. Once you get one on, then the other ones they kind of want to go back to their memory, and it gets difficult to take the battery box off. So I'm gonna get rid of these screws, and I'm gonna put right here in the middle. See, there's kind of a little recess here anyway, but right here in the middle, I'm gonna put a latch so we can turn this latch, and little arms are gonna come out on all four sides and grab up underneath, sort of like a submarine escape hatch. That way we'll be able to open it and close it all with one hand with no tools. I think that'll be kind of a fun project to play on. So let's see if we can get that done. Let's go ahead and dig this thing apart and get some measurements. All right, so I got myself some measurements. If you can notice down here, it's a little bit of a constriction right here. So I'm gonna aim for this corner. So the bar is going to slide in and grab underneath here. Same thing with this side. I'm going to grab this corner. Instead of going into the corners, I'm going to offset just a little bit. In the front, it's a little less of an issue because I got plenty of room under here to ride a shaft. So I can aim right for the actual arc of the corner right here. And that's not going to be a problem. Let me show you what it looks like out here. All right, so here you can see the offsets on the inside, and I've got the corners marked where the shaft is going to slide. And on the inside, or on the front side, I'm going to go right to the outside corners. This should be the arc where the corner goes. You can see that even where it used to have this little weather stripping in here, it was not really actually grabbing much. So I'm going to take all this weather stripping off. We're going to cut a hole in the middle right here for the apex. That's where we're going to have our turning mechanism. It's going to turn like this. And when it turns, these shafts will move into position and out of position. You'll see how it goes in just a minute. Alright, so just in case you're wondering how to get these screws out, they don't want to come out. So I'm just going to drill the heads off. You can see I've already got a couple of them off. This one and that one. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cap these with a TPU 3D print that is actually going to go down into the old hole. So it'll be like a little stud that will go down into the old holes and keep everything all lined up. And the latch bars will just keep it in place. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and finish drilling these out, and then we can get on to the metalworking. All right, so here we have the basic mechanism all laid out. This is the center wheel, or the hub, if you will. Each of these splines will have a bar like this. We're going to measure them so that they can be connected to the outside here with a little hinge or a rivet right here. And as this spins, this will move in and out based on where it's at on the. I don't expect that this is going to turn more than 90 degrees. So from here to there, you can see how much that moves. Now, there obviously is going to be a pivot point that we're going to put right out at the edge here. If you put that pivot point too close to the center, then the whole bar moves like this, rather than if you put it at the end. Like if we put it in there at the end, then when this moves, the bar will move laterally instead of rotating. So it's just a matter of getting the measurements right, getting everything spaced out. This bar probably won't be straight. It's going to have some flattened edges on the ends, and might have a little jig jag right here just to make sure that we can make it match up in the right places. So that's the basic design. I'm going to go ahead and start smashing these out and measuring them up so to meet where they're going to be on the axis, and we'll drill some holes and run rivets. I don't want to run screws into this because I don't want to take any chance of anything falling into the battery box should, you know, vibrations or over time, whatever. So we're going to rivet these, and they'll be like a permanent installation. All right, so moving on. All right, so there you can see I've got the 4 pieces laid out where they're going to go, and next roll off. And I've smashed this one. You can see against my my hand here, it's flat on one side and dented in on the other side. That way, when it rides on the surface here, it won't bump on that bump, right? So I had to make it so it was flat, so it can travel along the side of the hub. We're going to call this the hub. So it's flat on one side and curved on the other. I'm going to go ahead and smash the rest of these out, and we'll start working on riveting these things. All right, so here you can see I've got all 4 of them flattened out. Now I'm going to start running some pilot screws, or drill some holes through the ends here, and then put some holes in the hub where they match up. They're not going to be directly on center because these were offset, so I have to make sure that I get them in the right place, so when they turn, they will match up with the right shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the drill the pilot holes in here for the rivets, and then we'll check back in. All right, so the material that we're going to be using for these rivets is basically just an 8-penny nail. You can see it's already got a nice flat head on one side. All I have to do is mash the other end. So what I did on here is I threw it in my little gauge it thing, and you can see it fits right there, right at 9/64. So I drilled out my holes 9/64. Whoops. And there you have it. That's what the rivet will look like now. There's a little rough edges around here and there. I'm going to file those down so they're smooth. But all we need to do is drill a hole in the hub that's also 9/64, and then smash the end of this this nail right here, and we'll have our pieces all fixed together. Then we can move on to the next step. So I'm going to get to drilling some holes. All right, so I've polished up this nail. I've got a nice flat head on it. I've cleaned up the shank, and what I need to know is how long to make the nail so that I can figure out where to cut them. So it looks like if I make these nails 10 millimeters long, it should give me about 2 or 3 millimeters to smash into the top on the other end. That should be plenty of play. 10 millimeters. Let's go ahead and cut these up. All right, so there you go. I got one in. It's freewheeling. You can see I just smashed that rivet, whoops, just enough so that it doesn't come out. You don't want to create any resistance. And it was a little bit tough at first, but wiggle it a little bit and it comes just fine. We'll throw some lube in there as well once we get to where we're assembling this. But you see, I've got a full 180 degrees of motion. So when you rotate this, see, that'll be fully extended. And when you rotate it, you can see that much play. That's how the mechanism will work. Times 4. So let's go ahead and put these other ones in. All right, so while we've been working on this, I've had my 3D printer printing out these little rubber stops. You can see there's a flat side right here. I have a little bit of a bevel on the end, and this is about 8 millimeters right here. So the idea behind these rubber stops is they will go, clean this off. it will go into these holes just like that. To plug the hole so I don't have to worry about welding up a hole that's already in there. But these little plugs, they stick out and they'll go into the existing holes that are in the battery box, and so it'll help to line it up when you put it in place. These little studs will line up in those holes. So that's I got to print 5 of those. So I got the printer working right now while we're working on these other things. Well, there's no turning back now. This is a 7/16 hole that I've cut through. This will be the pass-through for the axle on the hub. It goes through to the other side where there'll be a handle. Now that I'm at this point, I think what I'm going to do is see, this is kind of bent. It's no longer true and straight. There's a lot of little bows and bends and the circles around here where they've been tweaked by being pulled on because they weren't loose. I'm going to tap on these with a hammer and try to straighten this out as best I can. And then on the back here, I'm going to pull this paint, and we got to get some bare metal here and here and here so we can do some welding. But we're going to get rid of all this. There's rust everywhere. So we gotta mitigate this, bring it back to new. The trick with that is not to lose the sticker. So I'm going to be kind of careful with it as I go, but I'm going to try to preserve this sticker. You could probably buy a new sticker, but I like that this is old and just slightly off color. It has an age on it, a patina we'll call it. But I think before we get too much further, I'm going to go ahead and treat this for rust, get some exposed metal, and get this thing flat. All right, moving forward. All right, there you go. All the rust is cleaned up. See, just bare metal. I've banged out most of the dents and deformations. There's a little bit of a wobble in it, but it's true. It's pretty straight. I'm going to go ahead and sand this just a little bit so that I don't have any rough spots, and take it out for a quick touch of paint, and then we'll bounce back in. Alright, so this next step here, we're going to put the center post in. And you can see I've taken a 7/16 bolt, and I've cut ground down a flat edge on both sides of this bolt. The intent there is that on the top, we're going to actually cut this down quite a bit, but on the top up here, we're going to have not a round fixture, but a slotted fixture, so that it'll grab that, and that will be our moment of torque right there, is this flat edge right here. And the other reason why I used a 7/16 bolt is that it has so much surface area on the threads, and so even with it ground down so severely on both sides, there's still enough threads that you can throw a screw on there and still get plenty of action. So what we're going to do here next is basically I'm going to run a couple of tack welds right in here to get this centered so that we have this flat edge oriented from the front and the back right here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a little weld in there, and then we'll get moving where we can measure the distance that we need to cut this off. Alright, so not a hideous weld, but not a pretty weld either. There's a lot of speckle and splatter, but there's a lot of coating on this material, so give myself whatever excuses I can. I'm going to go ahead and grind it down, make it look pretty. Alright, that's all we got the time for this week. On this portion of the video, we'll be recording part number 2 this weekend as I finish this project up. Really sorry for not having that many videos out lately. I've been splitting time between this and some backyard projects, getting the house ready for my daughter's wedding coming up in September. So make sure that if you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and check back to the channel later, and we'll see the end of this video. Cheers!